Um, yeah, we're live right now, and we want you to know that we are happy to have you. All right, let's take it in.
Welcome to the breakfast hour.
Good morning, Lady Elise. I would say we said good morning on the radio already, but I'm going to say good morning just for the purpose of our listeners and our viewers on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We're going to say good morning to you this morning. Of course, it's Wellness Wednesday right here in the Grand Cayman Islands, but because Flashpoint is not just in the Grand Cay alone, and we have our viewers and listeners in the US, in Canada, and of course the Caribbean and the rest of the world, wherever you can find the internet goes, Flashpoint is there, but we know that our analytics tells us that this is where our listenership is. We find people in Jamaica and in the UK, in Canada, and the US. And, we know the Caribbean is eating up Flashpoint right now, and they're enjoying us on various different streams. And so this morning, Lady Elise, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, and so it's Wellness Wednesday once again. And so today is always a special day to hear a little more about our health and how we can take care of ourselves.
Yes, it is one of those days when we get serious, not only about the things that are happening in the world. That's why we started off this Monday. We spoke about things happening in our neighborhood, yes, and our neighborhood extends as far as the US to Texas, where we remember or we are still cognizant of those persons affected by the disaster over there in Texas. So we went all over the world on Monday, and today we are taking our health seriously. So we're going to hear from Dr. K what she has to share with us. Each and every Wednesday, it's all about taking care of our bodies and our health. So, of course, I'm happy to be in the place. It's a bright and sunny morning right here in Grand Cayman. It was rainy yesterday. Yes, it is. But today it's bright and sunny. So wherever you're tuned into, keep it locked. Welcome to the breakfast hour. I'm your girl Elise. Happy to be in the place. Happy to be in the house. It is Wellness Wednesday. Welcome, welcome, welcome on board. If you're on Facebook, welcome. YouTube, Instagram, however you have joined. If you're on the web or radio, www.flashpointsmedia.ky, this is the place to be.
Well, welcome one, welcome all. Of course, as we say that, we're going to go straight to our devotional. When we come back, we will indeed have some Wellness Wednesdays for you and some tips and advice on how to stay healthier. Yeah, I'm going to assume the first thing that we are healthy. And of course, this morning's experience, or this segment of the breakfast hour, is brought to you by M&M Construction for all your construction needs right here in the Grand Cayman Islands. And of course, when we come back, we will indeed have much more to talk about.
Looking to build your dream home or renovate your space? M&M Construction is the perfect place. We bring your vision to life with precision and quality craftsmanship. From design to construction, we guide you every step, ensuring seamless coordination and superior results. Our professional roof inspection and maintenance services will ensure that your roof is sturdy this hurricane season. So, if you are ready to start your construction journey, call us today at 345-927-7509. Build with confidence. Build with M&M Construction. 345 927-7509.
Good morning. This is day 9. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. No Bad News, written by Julie Ackerman Link. The unwillingness to listen to bad news has been blamed for everything from space shuttle disasters to corporate collapses to the spread of terrorism. Lengthy studies aren't needed to determine why this happens. Bad news reveals problems. Problems require solutions. Solutions cost time, money, and energy. We would rather spend celebrating past successes. This isn't new to our century. In the 50th century BC, King Ahasuerus of Persia refused to allow mourners to enter his gates. Esther 4 verses 1 and 2. One commentator suggests that he preferred to surround himself with people who were awed by his wealth and were eager to attend his lavish parties. Esther 1 verse 4. His reluctance to be bothered by bad news nearly resulted in annihilation of the Jewish people. Contrast the leadership of Ahasuerus with that of Jesus, who said, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Ahasuerus ruled his kingdom by allowing only happy people to enter his presence. Jesus builds his kingdom by welcoming the burdened and sorrowful into his presence. What's more, Jesus not only invites us to tell him our bad news, he has the willingness and the power to turn our most troubling circumstances into a celebration of praise. I walked life's path with worry, disturbed and quite unblessed, until I trusted Jesus. Now faith has given me rest. Our quote this morning reads, "The gospel is bad news to those who reject it, and good news to those who receive it." End quote.
I'm Audley Scott, and you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. Rise and shine, your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and CoraleeKaren, the unmistakable combination synergized to navigate.
Of course, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's good morning to you once again. Welcome to the breakfast hour. And of course, today is Wellness Wednesday, right here in the Grand Key. And of course, the rest of the world, I want to good morning to my friends in the US of A, Canada.
Yes. I must say a big good morning to the lady Marcia.
Hey, Marcia, good morning to you. How are you?
I just love being a part of the Flashpoint family. And why I love it is because we have gone beyond borders. I have to say, Flashpoint, practical, present, and on point, and beyond the point. At this point, I want to say welcome to our viewers. If you are tuned in from the US, if you're in Florida, if you're in Grand K, If you're in Canada, US, UK, wherever you are, if you're in Jamaica, we welcome you. And of course, the conversation is always applicable wherever you are. So, at this point, I'm going to invite you. Yes, I'm going to invite you to send your messages. Let us know what's happening where you are. You can reach us on 345-321-6969. That number is on WhatsApp. Send us a message. Let us know if it's bright and sunny, if there's lots of traffic where you are, whatever is happening. We want to know, and we are happy that you're joining and tuning on the Breakfast Hour. Dr. K has a lot to share with us this morning.
Well, having said that, with all the sharing, I guess we're going to get right into it, ladies. And of course, get to the meat of the matter. Of course, it's Wellness Wednesday, and we want to hear more about how we can take care of ourselves. And so this morning, Dr. K is having a whole lot of stuff to tell us. And so I'm so interested to talk about it this morning. So let's get into it. Of course, when we come back, we'll have that conversation and much more.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4, Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Welcome to the Breakfast Hour. Of course, it is another Wellness Wednesday, and we are joined by our resident physician. Yes, our physician has many years of experience, and today she's going to be speaking about how to take care of our health. Specifically, she'll be dealing with sickle cell disease. Now, I know this condition is pretty common. I believe it is, Mikey
Mhm.
G. Have you
Yes.
ever heard of sickle cell?
I have heard of sickle cell disease, and I also know people who have this disease, and they are good friends of mine. And I can see the trauma that it plays in their life. And I have a friend who's actually a husband, and actually also have a child in the relationship, and he has sickle cell. So, and I watched that. So I kind of like understand a little bit more about it because I was exposed to some of my friends actually having it, seen it work, and see what it does to the human body. So sickle cell disease this morning, and that's what our discussion is about. Of course, when we come back, we'll have this discussion with Dr. K, our resident doctor, right here at Flashpoint Radio.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4, Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. 3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Of course, Dr. K stands ready to share with us information all about sickle cell disease. Welcome, Dr. K.
Good
We're
morning,
happy
Lady
to have
Elise. Good
you
morning. How
today.
are you today?
I am doing well. I am doing fabulously well. Thank you very much for asking. How about you?
Awesome, awesome. I'm good. I'm good. Good morning, Mikey G.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Dr. K. I don't have to ask how you're doing. I see the radiance and the smile and the bright on you already. So I know that we are in for a treat on sickle cell disease and how we can, of course, I don't know if we can avoid it, but how we may can handle or treat it. I am possible manage the process. I'm not sure. But I wait for your advice on that one.
Correct. So, yes, I'm discussing sickle cell disease because June 19 was World Sickle Cell Day. But in June, we were so focusing on taking care of the men and making sure that they're well aware of the different issues that affect them. So, we were focusing a lot on our men and making sure our men stay healthy. So, we didn't discuss sickle cell disease last month. So, for the beginning of July, I will definitely talk a little bit more about sickle cell disease. Now, as you said before, sickle cell disease is a relatively common disease, especially in the black population. Sickle cell disease basically is because of a mutation in the hemoglobin chain that carries blood and oxygen. How did this come about? Actually, the mutation came about because of the ability to deal with malaria. So what they realized is that in malaria prone areas, Africa, some Indian countries, what happens is that historically the red blood cell mutated, so the hemoglobin chain mutated in order for the patients, for the persons to become resistant to malaria. And as a result of that mutation, it has continued throughout time. So yes, so that is how it became just an event that would have happened because of malaria prone areas. The body just decided that hey, I need to do something in order to treat malaria to get the persons resistant, and it has come down through time. The problem with the mutation, because of the substitute of a protein at a different location, what happens is that the red blood cell, right, is not as flexible as it would normally be. So when you're flowing through the blood vessels, through the veins and the arteries, you're okay. But when you're going through the smaller blood vessels, the capillaries, that's where the problem lies. So think about gummy, lifesavers gummy. Anybody knows lifesavers gummy? Not the hard
Yes,
ones, the
yes.
soft candy. Think about how you can um, move, you can twist it, it's pliable, you can twist it into any shape. If you're putting it in any way, it will be moving around. So the blood vessel will start to look like the circular with a little space in the middle, like the lifesaver gummy. There's not a space there, but there's a little area there. And think about that going through the blood vessel, and think about that now unable, think about the hard gummy, the hard lifesaver, not the gummies but the hard lifesavers. The hard lifesavers candy, and think about the red blood cells, the sickle cell, being like the hard shaped lifesaver. So you have the gummies which can move through the blood vessel, the hard ones cannot move. So when it's going to the big blood vessels, it's moving along. But when it's going to the little blood vessels, because it cannot shape itself the shape of the blood vessel, because the blood vessels are tiny. They curve. They join each other, and they can't go through. So what would happen is that, especially when there's like a joint area, they will stack like a coin. And if they stack like a coin, what will happen is that the blood does not flow. Okay? So that is the problem with sickle cell disease. The cells sickle, and because they sickle, they refuse to flow because they cannot flow. They cannot deform itself to squeeze its way through the vessel, and it cannot flow. But what causes that to happen? So there is situations where the blood vessel, it will happen, but there are situations that will cause it to sickle more. And these situations are like dehydration. So if the person who has sickle cell disease becomes dehydrated, then they would have more sickle cells forming, and they would get the symptoms. So the problem with sickle cell disease, as I said before, is not just the fact that there's a problem with the red blood cells, but it's conditions that cause it to happen. Now we'll ask, how do you get sickle cell? We talked about historically how it happens, but many people are carriers of the sickle cell trait. So mostly black people,
Wow.
Indian, descent, Mediterranean. That's where you mostly find the sickle cell disease. We find it in Africa. We find it in the Caribbean. We find it in other areas. Not so more in Caucasian persons or persons of Caucasian descent. But how do you get it? So one person has sickle cell trait, gets married to another person with sickle cell trait, as a picture shows. In that case, 25% of their children will come out normal, no sickle cell disease. 50% of their children will come out with a sickle cell trait, and another 25% of their children will come out with the disease.
Wow.
Okay? And if one person has the disease and the other person has the trait, then more of their children are more likely to get sickle cell disease and also to carry the trait.
So,
Okay?
is
So
there a test? Is there a test that can be done to know if you have this disease, this trait of sickle cells?
absolutely, absolutely, great question. And in a country like Jamaica, every baby that's born, the cord blood is tested.
Oh.
Okay? So in different countries and with different race and different genetic disease, the cord blood is tested for different things. And the cord blood is the blood from the umbilical cord. So every baby that's born in Jamaica is, or used to be, I think it still happens, a practice happens that they test them for sickle cell disease. So if you do not know if you have sickle cell disease, and and that's one way of preventing sickle cell disease. You want eugenics, means that you want to have a good child, or you want to make sure your baby is normally and healthy. Then, I mean, even before you get um, married to somebody, you can do genetic testing. It's just a blood test that does your genotype and then your phenotype. So it's HB electrophoresis, where they're looking for the sickle cell trait. So yes, it's an easy blood test that can look for the sickle cell
Okay.
trait.
Thank you.
I have a question, Dr. K. I know this is probably going into, I don't know if it's going into genetics, but I in early days, I know it was a sickle cell. Either you have the trait or you have the full blown disease. Now I've discovered I've had persons adding different letters like S and T and different variants. What
Correct. Correct.
what's the true meaning of all these little, differences that you as it relates to sickle cell? What's really
Okay,
the
so
implication?
right. So sickle cell S is the one that is, so you have HbA, we call it hemoglobin A adult, which is normal hemoglobin. So we have hemoglobin A normal, hemoglobin F, which is fetal hemoglobin. So by the time the child reaches 6 months, all of that fetal hemoglobin would change to add to normal hemoglobin. Okay, so if it's fetal hemoglobin, it would change to hemoglobin A in a normal person. So if the person has hemoglobin S, where there is substitution of valine for glutamine on position 6 of the hemoglobin chain, you get S, hemoglobin
Okay.
S. So instead of A, you would get S because of the substitution, sorry. So that's a mutation of those two proteins. When you have mutation of another protein, you can get hemoglobin C. So this time it's not valine for glutamine, it's another protein for another protein at a different location. You get hemoglobin C. And then you can get beta thalassemia. So you can get beta zero, beta thal. You can get different mutations of the gene. So it's a hemoglobin chain that mutates in different ways that gives you the different variant of an abnormal hemoglobin.
But all giving the same effect.
No, the effect is not the same. So only hemoglobin S has the bad effect. But
Okay.
if you combine hemoglobin S with any abnormal gene, then you get a bad effect too.
Okay.
So you can
Wow.
have hemoglobin SS, which is abnormal, hemoglobin SC, which is abnormal, hemoglobin S beta thal, which is abnormal. But the SS is the worst.
Okay.
So you can have hemoglobin AS, means that they're carrying the sickle cell trait because they have one normal hemoglobin. So you can have HbAS, HbAC, HbA beta thal, and these are all the phenotypes. That's what I was saying, that you can look and see that there's abnormalities, but when you check whichever one you have, when you do the HB electrophoresis, you're looking for the phenotype of the sickle cell. But what you're looking for, then you look for the genotype, which is the, where is it S? Is it C? Is it beta thal? What is it? So there are a number of different um, genetic mutations for the normal hemoglobin, and all of these tend to have symptoms, but the one that we normally carry and make the worst symptoms is the HBSS. So HBSC will have some pain and they'll have some problems, but definitely not like HBSS. HBS beta thal will have symptoms, and sometimes they don't even know that they're S beta thal until later in life. They probably go through life having just mild symptoms, and when they get older, probably they do genetic testing because they plan to have a child or something, and they realize they're beta thal, and they're like, oh my god, I never knew because I never really had symptoms, just anemia.
So how important is it then? I know when at some point in your lifetime you will have your blood group. You know your blood group. How important is it? Are these routine tests that you would get, like if you go to your pediatrician, so you know from your 5, 6, 7, or 8 that you have the trait, or is it that after you start experiencing symptoms, then the doctor might request that you do tests and find out that you have sickle cell trait or the full blown disease?
Correct. So, good question. The thing about it is that it is not something that is routinely tested. As I said, in Jamaica, all cord blood is tested. So if it is positive, it should be communicated to the parent of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, communication doesn't necessarily mean that it is received. or sorry, the information is not there, because communication has to be given and received at the same time. So once you communicate, you have to give information, you have to receive it. That's communication. So communication has not occurred. So sometimes the information is given, but it was not received. So you tell the parents that your child has sickle cell disease, and they may not remember to pass it on, or even to say anything. So because of migration and people move from one. So you're born at, say, University Hospital, and you're baby of Karen Lewis. Okay? And it so happens that you are the baby of, your cord blood is tested, you probably get registered, and you have a positive hemoglobin sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. Usually, if your child have sickle cell disease, you should know because there are symptoms early, and I will go into that. But say your child has just a sickle cell trait, that should happen. But people move, people migrate, and sometimes this is not because the child has no issues, it was never communicated to the child. The child grows up 18, 20, 25, 30, decides to get married, and without getting checked, that child is passing on that gene. And if that child gets married to somebody else who has sickle cell trait, then of course it's going to be continued, because they're going to be having children to pass the gene on to that child.
Just
So
listen to your
yes,
doc. Just listen to your doc. It sounds like just so many things can go wrong with us, right? Just having so many different forms of diseases. You mentioned earlier in your earlier presentation, early part of your presentation, about the blood basically pooling together or banking up at certain areas, are banking up at certain areas. What came to my mind is, could this cause also aneurysm of the heart, where it blocks the artery and creates a situation for cardiac arrest or anything in that nature? Because, like, I always listen to the clotting of blood and blood going to certain areas and blocking arteries and creating this effect. Is this also possible in the someone having sickle cell disease, and is this possible for that to happen to one person with that disease?
absolutely. Good question. So I was going to go through that, but let's go here. So sickle cell disease, as I said to you, it can cause blocking of the vessels. And it's usually the smaller vessels. It can cause blocking of the bigger vessels too. But it's usually capillaries, and that's where you get the pain. But let's talk about what happens in sickle cell disease. Yes, Mikey G, you can get blockage of the arteries, and you can get deep vein thrombosis, which is
Uh,
clotting of the arteries. You can get clots going to the lungs, and that's how they get infarction of the lungs, and something called acute chest syndrome. They can get clots and blockage of well, basically formation of clots and blockage to the brain, and so they get strokes. Okay, approximately 18% of persons with sickle cell disease can or do have a stroke, whether it's going to be a mini stroke or some stroke, but they do have some form of blood clot related issues. They don't really get aneurysms, because aneurysms tend to occur because of a dilatation of the blood vessel itself. So it doesn't really cause aneurysms, but it does cause clotting of the blood, which you can get strokes, you can get
mhm.
cardiac events, you can get um, clot to the lungs, which can cause infarction of the lungs, and you can get damage to the blood vessels, to the organs. So you can get decreased blood flow to the kidneys, and decreased blood flow to the spleen. In sickle cell disease, especially, there's something called autosplenectomy, because there's decreased blood flow to the to spleen, so eventually the spleen becomes infarcted and dies. So in usually smaller children or younger persons, they tend to or when they get older, a lot of older persons who have sickle cell disease do not have a spleen. And that's where the problem comes in, because the spleen, which is a little organ which is on the left upper quadrant, right under the ribs on the left side, is a very important organ. You can live without it, but it's very important in terms of opsonization of bacteria, meaning that it's very important in terms of producing um, your immune cells that will help with getting bacteria and getting rid of them. And this is important more so in organisms that are capsulated, things like salmonella and other organs, streptococcus and other organs that are organisms that are capsulated. So because it makes it harder for your cells and for bacteria to treat these organisms. So what it does is that we try to encourage our patients, especially our kids with our younger children with sickle cell disease, to get those vaccinations from early, because it puts them at risk for getting the infection. And as
Yes.
a result of that, they can basically, what would I say, the immune system is not as competent because of the lack of the spleen. And so the spleen itself, sometimes the spleen is removed because of the spleen is trapping the blood. So because the spleen and the liver, so you get hepatosplenomegaly, sorry, you get splenomegaly, which is enlarging of the spleen, because the spleen is actually trapping the blood, so the persons become anemic. And sometimes you get hepatomegaly, where the liver becomes enlarged because it's trapping the blood in the liver, so the person becomes anemic. So they have pain in the liver, pain in the spleen, they become anemic, or they're already anemic because of the red blood cells. And the difference with the sickle cell, remember, red blood cells live for 120 days. Okay, normal red blood cells. Sickle cell, because of the sickling of the cells, you're damaging the cells earlier. So every time you have a crisis, which is a sickle cell crisis, where the blood vessels are unable to go through the blood vessels, they're actually being damaged. And when you damage hemoglobin, when you damage red blood cells, you're releasing heme and globin. Heme is the red part, and globin. As a result of the breakdown of the heme, you produce the yellowing of your skin, which is the jaundice. And that is why sickle cell patients who are having a crisis tend to have the jaundice, because you're producing increase in the heme component in the blood, so they become jaundiced.
So,
Wow.
okay, if I get you, I'm listening to the conversation, and the reason that you're presenting on sickle cell disease is because there is a whole day that's set aside in June, and
June 19
usually,
was Sickle Cell Awareness
yes,
Day in 2025,
usually
yes.
it's important. Now, I listen to all the things that could happen to individuals who have sickle cell, the crisis, which means the pain, the fact that they could lose their spleen, they're more prone to blood clots, they are more prone to several other issues
Organ
in
damage, organ
organ
damage.
damage, infections, and so forth. With this knowledge, though, and the fact that it is a disease that is more common in black persons, how important it is for us as individuals at different stage to know about this disease. I know we talk about hypertension, we talk about diabetes and other lifestyle diseases, but I realize that sickle cell can in fact affect your quality of life. How important
Correct.
is it for us to know about these diseases, and when we make our plans in life, or when we are getting a partner, or when we are thinking, suppose I know that I have the trait. This is something that I would take into consideration if I'm planning my family, because then you're thinking of the fact that your child could end up having a lifetime of medical issues. So they'll speak to us about how we can probably structure how we do things differently, whether you have the trait or not. If you're living with the disease, how you can improve your quality of life, or if you're planning to have children, what decisions or what do I need to think about for the generation or for my children?
Okay, so it's important that we decide that, if we want to have or to prevent the the incidence of sickle cell disease continuing, we have to make a conscious effort. As I said before, there are people who are carriers of sickle cell traits who may not know. But if you are of um, that descent where that cultural that cultural sector of society where sickle cell might be prevalent, it would be something that's prudent for you to actually get tested, especially if you're going to be embarking on a marriage, possibly childbearing. So you will make a conscious effort if you will pass that trait on to your child. And if you're deciding to get married and have a child with somebody who has a sickle cell trait, then you will have to make a conscious effort. Are we both going to be passing that trait? Because as I say, the incidence or the possibility or the probability of your child getting a sickle cell trait is 50%. Your child getting the sickle cell disease is 25%. So the first child you have might be normal, but the first child you have a 50% chance of getting the trait and have a 25% chance of getting the disease. So you have to make that decision. The thing about it though is that once you have sickle cell disease, you tend to know because the symptoms start early in life. I started out by saying that when you're born with hemoglobin F. So by the time you reach 6 months, your sickle cell hemoglobin F decreases and the normal hemoglobin rises. So if you have sickle cell trait, you won't be having a normal hemoglobin. It will be an abnormal hemoglobin. So usually your child will start having symptoms. So they might have pain and swelling in their joints. They can have something we call dactylitis, which is pain in the digits, and they can actually lose the digits. A lot of these persons with sickle cell disease tend to have venous ulcers because of the decreased blood flow to the lower limbs. So you have areas on the lower limbs. They tend to have scarring the inner aspect of the inner or the aspect of, I think it's the inner aspect of the leg down by the ankle, where they sometimes get a wound, and because of the decreased blood flow to that area, healing is impaired. Now, sickle cell disease can also cause blindness. It can cause so many things. Just about every organ can be affected. And so usually when you're younger as a child, you tend to get increased infections, you tend to get abdominal pain, tend to get anemia. So the child probably is not playing as much as another child. There's sometimes failure to thrive, weight loss. The child doesn't grow as well. Sometimes there's short stature. Sometimes you have changes in their bony formation because of the anemia and the increased risk of infection or the increased exposure to infarcted areas in the body, whether it's going to be bones or it's going to be chest. So sometimes they have symptoms. So most times, if you have sickle cell disease, you have symptoms. Sickle cell trait may or may not have symptoms, and sometimes the symptoms are so mild that it doesn't behove hospitalization or treatment. You're having pain in the joints. Your mother might just give you some rub and the pain goes away, or give you two Tylenol and the pain goes away. But you're not taking it serious that is a sickle cell because it's not as serious as a sickle cell crisis. So you probably grew up all your life and your hemoglobin is low. you're a female, your hemoglobin is low, you're a male, you probably, it's not low for you to be transfused, but say normal hemoglobin is 12 to 16, 12 to 14 in females, yours might be 10, and you've grown up with 10 and you think 10 is normal because you've compensated with 10 for the rest of your life. So you have a little bit of anemia, but it's not an anemia that's going to cause a big thing. So later on in life, you might want to get checked because you do a lab, you do your labs, and that's why everybody does their labs. You might be a young adult, or it might be older, it might be a child, because it all depends on how much you're treated. Your parents might not have brought you to the hospital a lot to get labs because you're a healthy child. So not every parent will take you to the lab, take you to your pediatrician and get blood drawn all the time. Your pediatrician, you go for healthy visits. Not every time your pediatrician will do labs on you. And that's why it's important to at least have a baseline on every child to see what is happening. So your doctor sees that your hemoglobin is 10, they want to say, your hemoglobin is 10. Let's do a workup and see what was causing that hemoglobin to be 10. Or when you get older, your 20s now, you decide, I'm going to take my healthcare into my own hands. And you go get your first checkup on your own, and you realize you're anemia, you're anemic, and your doctor will wonder what's causing your anemia. Will do a workup before they even treat you for that anemia, or even say, okay, sickle cell trait, and this is what you have. But you've never had symptoms really, or even if you've had symptoms, they were so mild that you never attributed them to anything.
I
So,
go ahead.
so not so yes, so the thing about it is that it's very important that we actually pay attention to our bodies, and especially if we're going to have children. And it's not just sickle cell disease. There are other genetic disease, that because sickle cell disease is not a lifestyle disease, it's a genetic disease. You're born with it. So there are other diseases that we can prevent, the propagation of these disease, but it's up to the persons, the individual. It's not like anybody's going to lock you up and say, you have sickle cell disease, you can't continue sickle cell disease, so you need to not have children with sickle cell disease. It's a personal thing. It's a mutant gene, so it's a choice.
I am unable to. And my final question for you this morning would be on the idea of the blood flow that comes to that blood flow is an issue where sickle cell disease is concerned. And so for the genitals or genitalia of men, for that erectile ability, I know that I have to ask this question because there are men who are watching and they're wanting to know, and there are females too who are interested in knowing this information. How does this affect the men? That will affect the ladies eventually, anyhow.
Well, the fact is that it affects men because they can get something called priapism. And this is, as I said, how the blood vessels will be engorged in the liver and the spleen. The blood vessels can be engorged in the penile organ itself, the corpus cavernosum. So the blood vessel become engorged in it, and because it comes engorged in it, and it can't flow back out because the sickle cells are there, then what happens is the person gets a prolonged erection that we call priapism. And believe me, it can go on for 4 hours, 6 hours, a day. It can go on for long, but the fact is that it's very, very painful. So if the erection is sustained for a long time, you need to get treated. So if it's not happening at home, and it's very easily treated, hydration, and that's a thing for sickle cell patients. If they're dehydrated, they can get a crisis. If they go in high altitude, they can get a crisis. If they're exposed to viruses or any infection, they can get a crisis. So if they're cold in cold areas, they get a crisis. So you notice that they need to keep warm, they need to be hydrated, they need to keep away from infections. So these are simple things that can send them in a crisis. So if the time is too hot and they're not drinking enough, they can get a crisis. Okay? If they're climbing the Blue Mountain, they can get a crisis. So there are certain things because of the cells itself, the cells sickle in different conditions. So they will get a crisis. They get the shortness of breath. They get the pain. So yes, they have to. There are certain things that they have to do. Drink. So a man who basically is having a sustained erection and is not working at home with fluids and pain medication, then he needs to see his doctor, because just hydrating IV fluids will move the red blood cells along and will assist him. But in terms of erectile dysfunction, as you're talking about, in terms of damage to the organ, that doesn't really happen because of clots to the, as I say, erectile dysfunction tend to occur because of atherosclerotic plaques, and the pathophysiology of sickle cell disease is different. It's not atherosclerotic plaques that causes decreased blood flow to the area. It's usually clots or decrease in the pliability of the red blood cells, so they become sickle and sticky. So they stuck on each other, roll out formation or like coins.
All right, thank you, Doc. I think all men and women have got a full understanding of how this can work. You can have a night of pleasure and an entire week of pain at some point having this situation. I see the lady's face is chiming for a question or so, but I know it's time for us to get out of the studio. Well, to end this segment of our presentation, but ladies, you have something. I see your face asking a question. I don't know what that question is.
No, no, I'm certainly um, just absorbing all the information here. I'm sure our listeners would have gained something from the experience this morning talking about sickle cell. And if you uh, don't have the disease, I know you may know someone or someone who knows someone who struggles with the condition. What can you do to help as a relative, as a friend, be supportive? Remember to remind them to have fluids. It's summertime, it's coming up to be very hot. If you're living in the tropics, make sure you're hydrated. Take care of your health no matter what situation you find yourself in. And as Dr. K alluded to earlier in the conversation, it also means that you have to take responsibility too, and maybe you could ask for a test, check your family history, know a cousin or a brother or somebody who had sickle cell, and you know that something is a little bit off, or the digits, the pain, or you want to ensure that you do all that you need to do on your part to take care of your health. And that is what Wellness Wednesday is all about. It's promoting health and well-being as far as is possible. So if your struggle is sickle cell, thank you, Dr. K, for sharing with us this morning. If you're planning to get married down the line, or you're planning to have children, and you know that you have traits,
I would say don't get married. That's it.
no, no, this is something to take into consideration too.
Right, because to get marriage is not necessarily you can get married, but you
I'm
decide
just
not
showing
to
that.
have children.
I'm saying here's the risk that I'm running. With all of this going on. Wow, it's just crazy. Anyways, Dr. K, I'm sorry. I break that conversation right there.
Yes. So I hope the listeners they have gained something from the conversation. Sickle cell disease not a life sentence. You can make the best of the situation. You can
And
practice certain lifestyle changes to
and I
make your
should and
life.
I should mention now that we're 2025. Actually, there is stem cell um, transplants and number of other things that can actually stem cell transplant can actually lead to cure. The only problem is that most persons do not find a donor that's suitable to cure it, but it is possible. But there's so much treatment now that patients with sickle cell are living for much, much longer. Usually, a person with sickle cell disease never used to live to 50 years old. Now they're living way beyond. and doing it unhealthily because of the changes in treatment for sickle cell disease. And that's probably why a lot of people, especially, and then it all depends on where in the world you are, because some people don't have access to that kind of care.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. K. This is more than a mouthful, a handful, so much information on sickle cell. I trust and hope that all of us have listened to this conversation and revisit this channel to hear more of how you can take care of your health. Of course, I want to say if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Wellness Wednesday right here on Flashpoint. Ladies, I want to say thank you, Dr. K, for coming on this morning and giving us so much information. I know you can't pay for this. And so I am thinking that we are at a loss for words of how we can compensate at this point. All right, I see Lady is laughing at me, so I'm going to leave her to do that. And then Dr. K, she's also laughing at me. And so I'm going to leave this with everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe. Flashpointradio.ky. Our web radio plays all day, 24 hours. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our Instagram, and get more information on how to take care of your health. That's Wellness Wednesday, right here, every Wednesday on Flashpoint Radio.
We thank Dr. K for the wealth of information she's shared. So if you know someone who has sickle cell disease, I remember having friends or persons in the community who struggled with sickle cell disease, having different flare ups and different times that require hospitalization. Yes, it might be something that not affect you directly, but it could affect a family member, a friend, a classmate, as someone in the chat suggested that they had persons who struggled with this condition. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is indeed power, and we spend time, we are deliberate every single Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, to share something that may not necessarily affect you directly, but could affect a neighbor, a friend, or a co-worker or colleague. What can you do to help, and how the knowledge can impact how you respond, how you react to persons. Persons have genuine struggles. Sickle cell disease could be one of the conditions that they struggle with. Thank you, Dr. K. We certainly appreciate that conversation.
I would like to let you know that this morning when I listened to that conversation, ladies, I want to say good morning to Mario. Jacqueline, she knows the pain that men feel. Good morning, Jacqueline. And I want to say, when Dr. K explained the idea of that swelling up and maintaining that constant for 3-4 days, and a guy would say, man, that would be a good thing for 4 hours. That's good. But for the pain that comes with it, I don't know if we can pay the price for all of that. That's too much.
Sometimes requiring hospitalization, as Dr. K mentioned.
That is, it sounds like a good idea. When it starts out, it probably sounds real good, and I want to thank Dr. K for this morning's experience right here on Flashpoint. It was a Wellness Wednesday with a difference. The sickle cell disease that affects men, black men, or black people, I would say. Not just men, but
men and
black
women,
people, right?
Yes.
But I am looking at diseases, and sometimes I wonder if these things are actually orchestrated. In fact, one of the things that she said about the disease itself is that it's a mutation or maybe a derivative from something else being treated that mutated into this condition, right? And just listening to
Yes.
that, I'm saying I never see things that's not deliberate. I see things that have a planned purpose. I'm just going to leave it there on the table. I want to say good morning to you.
And on that note, Mikey G, yeah, I mean, it's okay, and we facilitate that. We have to be people who think
We
and
have to,
not
we cannot be people who don't use,
necessarily.
our head can't be decorations alone, you know? It can't just be using,
No,
oh, I'm prettier than my body and it's just there for just looking good. It can't be
our
for just
head
decoration, right?
cannot be
Aesthetics only.
decorations alone. Even they don't look nice. It's almost time to get out of studio, and I must share with you a few bits of information that you may need to know. I don't know where you are at this moment, but today is the 9th of July
Yeah.
2025, and
Mm-hmm.
on today we look beyond our shores as usual. And so I will share with you the various things that are celebrated today. Now, today is National Dimples Day. I
Did
need
you
to
know that I
correct
had,
you.
I have dimples? Anybody can see? I'm sure I know.
All right.
Uh,
Maybe I need to take a picture and show. And today is National Sugar Cookie Day, National, um, is it National
they're not as
Fashion
nice
Day?
as when I used to
It's,
be. They're not as nice as when I was a younger boy. When I was a younger boy, I'd say this, you had cookies already, hold on. So, when I was a younger boy, I had two dimples, right? Two, either side. And so,
yes.
I would have of the opposite sex would come up and say, your dimples are slightly different on either side, you know. And they'd notice, I'd say, I didn't know that, I was, you were talking about cookies, sorry, ladies. Go ahead.
It's National Sugar Cookie Day, and it's also National Fashion Day. Just to remind you of one of the fashion trends that are, I mean, it's being resurrected. Do you know that polka dots are coming back? Polka dots are
Polka
back.
dots never leave. In fact,
Polka
let me tell
dots.
you, I was a big something, right? It's like Mickey, I need a big heel booty and a barefoot pants. We got dance this festival. I mean, we knew this song from way back when, and when we see the things that people are wearing, and when we say barefoot pants, we thought it was an outdated thing. But we always know the Bible says there is nothing that is new under the sun. So, guess what? If you think that what you're doing is modern, look at 1975. Look at 1968 or 66. Look at 1950s. You're wearing the same clothes today as those people were wearing, are doing the same things. You know?
All right. And then today is also Durian Fruit Day.
All right. Durian fruit.
Now,
I'm interested in hearing about
now,
that one.
yes, and I did a little research, and I kind of dug deep. I dug deep, and I let me share with you what this fruit looks like.
Mm. That's like a jackfruit.
All right, it looks like a jackfruit. Now the
So this
jackfruit,
one then, if it looks like a jackfruit and it's not a jackfruit, then I would say it's a Jane fruit.
no, it's called a durian fruit, and the jackfruit and durian fruit, they are both large tropical fruits with spiky extensions, but they are distinct in appearance, taste, smell, and family. Now, durian, known as the king of fruits,
Ah, so
yes.
it's,
So you heard
not,
it
it's not
right
a
there with
Jane
that
now, it's a king.
before.
It's a jack.
It's the king of
Okay,
fruits.
okay.
It has a potent, pungent smell and creamy custard-like flesh,
Mm.
while jackfruit has a milder, sweet flavor and a fibrous, sometimes crunchy texture. So
Hands up those who like jackfruit.
yes,
I love it.
yes.
I love it.
Right, so there are two different fruits, but it's the first time I'm seeing it and the first time I'm hearing about it. But it's always a good opportunity for us to learn something new here at Flashpoint. This today is celebrated as King of Fruits Durian Fruit Day. And so I have never met the fruit. When I meet it, I'll tell you more about what I think about the fruit, but I will make an effort. See,
Well,
it's not everything you know, Mikey G,
now
and
that
your head is not just for decoration. So now you
no.
have learned something. And on that note, it's time for the news, Mikey G. It is time for the news.
Not decoration. So please, people, your heads are not just for decoration and beautification or aesthetics of your body. Alright, so we had a wonderful time right here at Flashpoint. It's time for the news. And of course, for those who joined us for the Wellness Week, I want to say good morning to Marcy, I want to say good morning to Jacqueline, I want to say good morning to Mario, I want to say good morning to Evelyn this morning, Eileen this morning. Good morning, Eileen. How are you this morning? Pleasant good morning to you as well. Of course, I want to thank Dr. K for coming on this morning and give us so much information. And of course, for Lady Elise, who tells us about the
durian fruit.
The durian fruit.
Good morning, happy good
that
morning.
is a custard fruit.
No pain, no gain.
Yeah, alright. News time comes up next. Of course, this segment of the breakfast hour is brought to us by Asai Ultrasound for all our ultrasound needs right here in the Grand Cayman Islands and beyond the rest of the world. Of course, we understand that Asai has moved its borders and is marching away, and now it is expanding itself. Now, could you tell us a little bit about that, maybe, before we get into it?
It's Asai Diagnostic Imaging Services, and what that means is that Asai not only does ultrasound imaging but also X-rays, and with the birth and expansion of a new location right here in Cayman Islands, and who knows, it may be coming to your neck of the woods. So maybe if you're in the US or you're in Jamaica, Asai might just come to your location. So you got to stay connected with us as we are connected to Asai here at Flash.
Alright, fine. So could we see Asai USA?
Yeah.
Asai USA. What, here we are, alright? So I think I must talk to somebody about that conversation. Alright, having said that, good morning to you. We're coming back. Of course, it's news time, ladies. You're going to have to tell the people good morning again and tell them where to find us and how.
I will say thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Breakfast Hour. Just reminding you that Flashpoint is practical. We're present and we're on point. Now, if something is happening in your neck of the woods and you want us to cover it, you want us to be a part of it, please go ahead and send us a message on 345-321-6969. Don't worry, no overseas charges will apply because you can contact us on WhatsApp. Just reminding you also that you can listen to us on our web radio, www.flashpointmedia.ky. Just click play for quality content all day, every day, 24/7, as we say. And we are always adding more programs to our repertoire, of course. And of course, Flash Talks come up this week. Flash Talk hot. Good morning, Lady Nikki B. I'm sure she's gonna bring some vibe and some energy to the platform. So, why are you missing out on content? We're everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Log on to Flashpoint every day, all day, 24/7. Stay connected. Keep it locked. I'm your girl, Elise. Now listen up for the news. CoraleeKaren brings the news to you.
Thank you, Lady Elise. When we come back.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4, Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
This is Flash Talk, the uncut edition. Say it just how you feel it.
No filters, no fluff, just real talk with the full Flashpoint fam. Get with it.
From hot takes to belly laughs, the crew is locked in and ready.
From debates that might get a little spicy, including all VIP members.
This is where vibes meets voice, jokes meets truth, and we talk things.
We are here to get real.
It's raw, it's real, and it's about time.
But big conversations. This is Flash Talks, the uncut edition. Flash Farm. What are the things then now? Real people, real voices, real conversations.
Flash Talk, the Uncut Edition, at 7 p.m. every Thursday, right here on Flashpoint.
Need help to produce your podcast? Flashpoint Media makes it very easy. We can relieve you of the headache by recording your podcast for you. So, take the first step to getting your content to your desired audience. Contact us here at Flashpoint and your podcast will be live in no time. Our website is www.flashpointmedia.ky or call us at 345-321-6969. That's a 345-321-6969.
Good morning, Cayman. It is Wednesday, 9th July, and you're tuned in to the Breakfast Hour. I'm CoraleeKaren, bringing you the top stories making headlines across the islands today. Car fire on Shedden Road quickly contained. A fire scene on Georgetown yesterday, but thankfully no injuries. Firefighters and police rushed to Shedden Road just after 12:30 in the afternoon when a white Audi SUV caught fire near the Flow building right at the junction with Eastern Avenue. Emergency crews were able to bring the blaze under control in just minutes. No one was trapped in the vehicle and officials are now investigating the cause of the fire. New faces join Cayman's Constitutional Commission. In honor of Constitutional Day this week, Acting Governor Franz Manderson has announced 3 new appointments to the Cayman Islands Constitutional Commission. Veteran civil servant John Lemuel Holson will chair the commission, with former Judge Alex Henderson and litigation lawyer Annalisa Shibley joining as members. All 3 bring years of experience, and the governor says their appointment reflects a strong commitment to upholding Cayman's constitution and to good governance. Dirty gold and hidden cash inside Cayman's Operation El Nino. A Cayman-led investigation into gold smuggling, dubbed Operation El Nino, has revealed how criminal gangs moved illegally mined gold from the Amazon to Europe using Cayman as a stopover. Though the case didn't result in money laundering convictions, authorities seized a private jet, US $135,000 in hidden cash, and gold valued at over 6 million CI. That gold was auctioned off in London and proceeds split between Cayman, the UK, and contesting companies. Despite the acquittals, investigators say the operation helped shut down a major route for laundering, quote, conflict minerals, end quote. Election observers recommend allowing ex-cons to run for office. A team from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association says it's time to review Cayman's election laws, specifically the rules that bar ex-prisoners from running for office. They argue that after serving their time, individuals should be allowed to stand as candidates. The report also criticized what it calls unreasonable residency and citizenship requirements that limit voter and candidate eligibility. The Law Reform Commission is expected to take up the issue as part of a broader review. Tourism Minister, let's bring back the Caymanian magic. Deputy Premier and Tourism Minister Gary Rotty says it's time to put Caymanians back at the heart of the tourism industry. Speaking at a tourism forum last week, Rotty called for more visibility of local culture and Caymanian hospitality in visitor experiences. He pledged to clean up public beach, boost local employment in tourism, and ensure tourists don't have to ask, where are the Caymanians? Rotty, who's only been in the role 7 weeks, says he's drawing on 35 years of business experience, including running a hotel, to steer the industry forward. Good news on your CUC bill. Electricity bills could be a little lighter this month. Caribbean Utilities Company says customers can expect about a 9% drop in July bills compared to last year. That's thanks to lower fuel costs and a major investment in battery storage technology. The average savings, just over $30 per household this month. CUC says it continues to push for utility-scale solar and storage to meet rising energy demand and climate goals. And now to regional news. CARICOM braces for U.S. tariff deadline. And finally, CARICOM leaders are on high alert as a 90-day pause on new U.S. tariffs is set to expire today, July 9th. At a meeting this week in Jamaica, regional leaders, including new CARICOM Chair Andrew Holness, discussed how to respond to the U.S. America First trade policy, which could slap a 10% tariff on CARICOM exports. Talks with U.S. trade officials are ongoing, but CARICOM says it's preparing for the worst and working to protect its vital trade relationship with the U.S. That's your news update for this Wednesday morning. For more on these stories, head to our website or follow us on social media. I am CoraleeKaren, and you're listening to The Breakfast Hour.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
I'm Audley Scott, and you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. Rise and shine. Your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and CoraleeKaren, the unmistakable combination synergized to navigate.
Alright, welcome back. Of course, after the news, so much happening across the world and in Grand Cayman, oh boy. So many things this morning. Thank you guys for joining us for this morning's experience. And of course, remember that we continue this experience all day. Flashpoint Radio continues to play on our web radio at flashpointmedia.ky every single day, 24 hours. So keep it locked right here on Flashpoint. Thank you guys for joining today. It has been an experience. I had a wonderful time with you. I trust and hope that you did as well. Of course, thanks to Lady Elise, who was with me, is with me this morning. And of course, CoraleeKaren, our news anchor for this morning's experience right here on Flashpoint. To all our VIP members, to all our listeners and viewers, have yourself a great day. Remember, like, share, subscribe, www.flashpointmedia.ky. Go and find what you can seek and see what you can find at Flashpoint if you can find something good for you and your family. Alright, have yourself a wonderful day, guys. Catch you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, when we do it all over again for you. Remember, we start on radio at 6:30 in the morning with some inspirational music and some wicked talk, man, and giving God grace, glory and praise each morning. Continue to enjoy Flashpoint and share it with someone. Tell them a little bit more. Be an ambassador this morning.
It's like we're running in circles, going around every day, getting stuck in the hurdles of yesterday. Don't you wanna go further, away from the fray? Let's not get stuck in our worries, we'll make our way. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from